Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Washington County Board of Education. Before I call this meeting to order, I would like to welcome to the dais Miss Daphne Wang. Daphne is our student board member for this year. Welcome, Daphne. At this time, I call our meeting to order and declare a quorum. We have all members present along with our student board member. I invite you to please stand with us for our Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'm stuck in my chair. Okay, we'll begin with the approval of this evening's agenda. Is there a motion, please? Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Is there a second?
Second.
Dr. Zentmeyer, is there any discussion?
Yeah, I do have a question. So we are discussing items that have already been voted on. Is there a reason why they're under new business?
Items that you are referring to
On the
are,
consent agenda?
okay, because that's where the advisement was to place them.
But they're the same motion. It should be old business, should it not? And then my next question was, who asked for that to be on the agenda? Was that staff, or was that a member of the board, or who asked for that?
Number 8.
Number 8 is on the agenda at the request of staff. It was not a member of the board that made that request.
Because, my concern is that I'm not allowed to bring up an item again that I was not on the prevailing side. So I'm just kind of confused why there's old business under new business and why it was allowed back on the agenda.
Wasn't any vote on it.
Well, my understanding is that the motion failed for lack of a majority, and those items were brought to be considered. So it wasn't a matter of someone who was on the prevailing side having to bring it up again to place on the agenda.
But isn't that the motion failing? The people who voted against it would be on the prevailing side. That's what the definition of failing would be. If the motion failed, then the prevailers would be the people.
And my understanding is that would not be in effect because there was no majority. So it neither passed nor failed. There was just not a majority. So the motion wasn't carried.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
So-
But your question regarding why it's under new business is a good one. I don't know. I didn't place it under new business. I don't place the items, so that's not something that I can answer.
I would ask that those items that were voted on previously be moved to old business, and that we separate out the one regarding the BCBA's.
Number 1.
Okay, so can we have, if you're going to make a motion to amend the agenda, can we have one amendment at a time? Okay, so I'm thinking first you want to move number 8. Is that what we're looking at?
Yes.
Number 8, you would like to move approval of the consent agenda, number 8, items 1 through 9, from new business to
To old business.
old business number
8. After, yeah,
number
8.
23.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
would have
number
to be
8.
number 23.
No,
No.
after the second reading of the proposed change of policy, JHCF.
Number 8 in old business.
After number 7, it'll be number 8. in
Before
old
the
business.
superintendent's report.
I see it, got it. All right, so you want the consent agenda. Items 1 through 9. Okay. So Mr. Evans has made a motion to amend this evening's consent agenda by moving from new business to old business. Number 8, approval of the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. Any discussion? All right, we'll move to the vote. All those in favor of moving it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Student member concurs. Okay. And then, Mr. Evans, you had a second?
Yeah, I'd move to take item number 1, the board certified behavioral analyst, and have that be voted on after the rest of the consent agenda.
Okay, so you are asking to separate item 1 from the consent agenda, item number 8 under old business. So we would make that number 9 under old business,
Yes.
BCBA. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. Any discussion? All those in favor? All right. Is your hand up? Mr. Stauffer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Put it down.
So we have unanimous. Student member concurs. So we are now voting on the amended agenda with the 2 stated amendments, making the change to the moving of the consent agenda from old business, from new business to old business, items 2 through 9, and separating item 9 to be considered separately. Previously, item 1 to item 9. Does everyone understand?
Yeah.
Okay? All right. All those in favor? Okay, we have a unanimous approval of the agenda, and the student member concurs. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Evans. We'll move next to approval of the minutes.
And I promise these won't be as long and challenging.
We're working together. If it takes some time to do it, we can get it right.
All right, motion number 1, I'm looking for the approval of the closed session minutes dated Tuesday, June 18th, 2024.
Thank you, Mr. Guessford. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. Are there any oops, nope, not for that. Okay. We have closed session minutes dated June 18th, 2024. All those in favor? Okay, 6, 1 abstention?
Yep.
Okay. So we have closed session minutes passed.
The second motion is for the approval of the business meeting minutes for Tuesday, June 18th, 2024.
Thank you, Mr. Guessford. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. Now, for this one, are there any additions or corrections to the business meeting minutes of June 18th, 2024? No? Okay, we'll move to the vote. All those in favor of approval? All right, we have 6 affirmative, abstentions, 1. And we have an approved set of business meeting minutes. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to public comment. Before we begin public comment, I'll read from Policy KD. Policy KD states, each person wishing to address the Board of Education is encouraged but not required to sign up prior to the meeting and may address any topic concerning Washington County Public Schools except personnel or student matters which clearly identify an individual or individuals. Individuals wishing to address the board who do not sign up prior to the start of the meeting will be required to sign the log located at the speaker's table for the purpose of the meeting minutes. Each speaker may speak for up to 5 minutes. And we have timing this evening, Mrs. Murray.
Yes.
Mrs. Murray, would you like to explain how that works, please?
So I set my timer for 5 minutes. When you have 30 seconds left, I'll hold this up. When you are finished, when your time is out, I will hold this up until your time is up.
Thank you. Okay, we have an individual, Michael Staup, who has signed up. Mr. Staup? Good evening, sir.
This is my first board meeting. I
Well-
have no children in your school, never had. But I'm here on something. I do have a website, Hagerstown Press, and I'm not here to embarrass any of you people. I'm not getting personal, but I sat through a conversation where I heard a story. Then I started looking further, and I went into your website, and I got some records. And I think all of you need to be aware of what's going on. Maybe you do or you don't. But the first thing I think we all agree on, that Washington County has top-notch schools, instructors, and administrators. I don't think any of us can vote against that or have anything. The second one is, I have looked into the documents and facts, and I have a lot of them here that I looked at. My third thing is, this is what was brought up. Your Washington County school buses are being used to transport one student, maybe two, all the way to Baltimore with a driver and an attendant. Every day, sometime they go to Hancock, to Woodmont, all these places where the student is not even present, not even there. All right, we're talking about $180 plus fuel costs, plus maintenance, plus insurance. I cannot see any justification for anybody on this Board of Education to allow a full school bus, and I've saw it myself. So I'm not here with a story to tell you. You are wasting hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years allowing these troubled students, other students. Now, I understand special needs students have to get maybe to Frederick but why aren't small para buses being used? But why is a full, and then when I heard the story that the aide and the driver are staying in the city until the student is dismissed from school, that there in itself was criminal to me and the people that were sitting there. This is a lot of money being wasted, and I don't know if any of you are aware of it, but it is happening, and I cannot see any justification for a full-size school bus to be being used to transport people to Baltimore. And then my next question was, we have top-notch schools, we have plenty of schools. How many schools in Maryland counties are practicing that? Why are they sending troubled students from Washington County to Baltimore when you people have top-notch instructors and you surely have all the equipment to handle troubled students? Why are they not being handled here? And what is the really, I mean, I looked at your transportation costs, and they are a lot. And you are going before the county commissioners, the state, asking money after money after money. Someone needs to take a look at this practice, and that's why I'm here. I'm not here to be personal I'm here to point out something that's going on that you people really need to know about, that a full school bus going to Baltimore with one student on it, in my book, doesn't go. And I'm sure all of you are financial, you look at your finances, your budget, you're not going to allow that to happen in your household. So why allow the taxpayers' money and all this money coming, every year you ask for more, whether you get it or not. Maybe that's an area you need to take a look at. So that's why, and I had a little thing there, you can read at your leisure. You might laugh at it because I had to take a blood pressure pill after I heard that story, by the way. But it is true, it's going on, and in my own opinion, it's disgraceful to see a full school bus going down the road with one student on it to Baltimore. And that's what puzzles me. Why are they being taken to Baltimore? There's plenty of classrooms in Washington County for a troubled student to be at. Maybe that's something you need to think about. But that's why I'm here. I appreciate being here. I don't mean to sound blunt. I usually don't get upset. The only time I've ever got upset was city council when somebody cut the Christmas tree down in our neighborhood. Then I really got upset. But like I said, I hope you take a look at it because we're looking at thousands and thousands of dollars on your school buses alone in fuel costs. For one student, I don't think that there can wash with anybody. So I appreciate you hearing me, and I hope that somebody will take a look at it, because I'm going to be taking a further look at it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stout.
Alrighty.
Dr. Savine, is it possible to have someone from staff follow up with Mr. Stout?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Stout was the only person we had sign up in advance. Is there someone else who would like to come and speak during
Aye.
public comment?
Thank you. Let me know when my time has started.
And your name, sir?
Levi Trumbull.
Okay, Mr. Trumbull, there's a sheet at the front. If you would just, at some point, make sure that you sign there, we would appreciate it.
Yes,
very much.
a sheet, but no pen, unfortunately, so maybe we'll
Oh,
get to that.
okay.
So anyway, like I said, my name is Levi Trumbull. I do investigative journalism out of Frederick, and man, there is a lot going on here with the Washington County Public School District. So let me tell you, about a month ago, I was watching a live stream take place, and I saw a guy, he might be in the room right now, I'm not sure, but I saw a guy come to a podium like this, or this one, and he talked about a situation where there was a possible offender, a registered offender, working for the Washington County Public School District. And I thought to myself, thank you for the pen, here it is. And I thought to myself, that seems unbelievable. How could a registered offender find their way inside of a school district? So that didn't seem plausible to me. I couldn't believe it. So I tried to call in, do my due diligence on the story to try to see if that was factual or not factual. I tried to call Aaron Anderson and all the people from your communications department, the people that you pay like $500,000 to per year, the 4 of them who never pick up their phones. And none of them picked up their phone, couldn't get a hold of them. I finally had to put in a Maryland Public Information request to see if this guy who goes by the name of Steve Edwards, if that's his legitimate name or not, and to see if he was a registered offender and if he was using a stage name. So it turns out that, well, fortunately for you guys, it appears you guys say he's not an offender. Okay, I will take that. I will take your word for it. But we did confirm that he is using a fake name. So Steve Edwards is actually a guy named Stephen Cornwell. So for the Washington County taxpayer, this guy named Steve Edwards, he's using a fake name. It's Stephen, whatever, Cornwell. So that's his name. And they ran him out of Frederick County, Virginia, because he was doing the same sort of thing. So that's an issue. Then I also saw a guy, same guy, talk about, an issue with his disabled son. Now, listen, I believe in free speech, civil rights. That's all very important. I'm sure, well, hopefully you guys do. I don't know. But then I saw you, Miss Williams. You tried to interject this individual about 2.5 minutes into his dialogue, and you tried to move the meeting into closed session. Closed session for a public comment? I never seen anything like that. You know that that's not right. The 7 or 8 members, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of you. You all knew. One of you should have said something like, obviously you can't move a public comment into closed session. And I believe that's why you never got a second on that motion. So there's a free speech issue going on here as well. You move a meeting into closed session for, there are reasons that you can do it that are under the Maryland Public Meetings Act. You can do it to hire somebody, to fire somebody, to do all things of that nature. But you can't move a public meeting into closed session because you don't like the content of somebody's speech. You came very close to, matter of fact, you did violate civil rights. There's a whole civil rights issue going on right there. Big problem. And then I'll close out. The Jewish community here in Washington County, they wanted me to read this. Hopefully I have enough time. But they want to know why there's no Holocaust education in the school. The Jewish community says that this is the most horrific war crime committed, and they want they want Jewish contributions to be added to the curriculum. They want to talk about Commodore Levi, no relation, who was instrumental in abolishing flogging in the U.S. Navy. Albert Michelson, who won the first U.S. Nobel Prize in Science. They also want to talk about Einstein, Oppenheimer, Teller, the advent of nuclear science and U.S. post-war dominance as a superpower. And then finally, a gentleman, Rabbi Schneerson, in 1983, began advocating for a moment of silence in American schools to help counteract high crime rates and societal changes by fostering in children a deeper awareness of values beyond themselves. So the Jewish community here in Washington County, they want some Jewish curriculum added to the material. They want that ASAP, and I think you guys should consider that. You guys need to tell Steve Edwards that he needs to start using his real name, Stephen Cornwell. You guys pay this guy like $157,000 a year to use a fake name. You need to stop silencing free speech. And with that, I'm out of here.
Thank you, Mr. Trumbull.
You're welcome.
Is there someone else who would like to speak?
Oh, yeah.
Good evening, Mr. Porter.
Preliminary matter before the case in chief. Last time I was speaking, you stole 2 minutes and 30 seconds of my free speech and tried to move the session into closed doors in an act of prior restraint, a violation of my First Amendment civil rights. You were trying not to let the people get the live feed on Facebook to see what I was saying. You need to give me 7 minutes and 30 seconds, Linda, not 5 minutes. Are you, again, denying to restore the time that you stole from me last meeting?
Please begin, sir.
Okay, so you had posted on Facebook that my son gives the best hugs. Then you posted, he is the most adorable, but he was not here at the June 18th meeting. You then posted on Facebook that if I had come to you sooner, you would have actually helped me with my situation. Well, I'm trying to figure out how you know my son is the most adorable and gives the best hugs if you didn't meet him a month prior in Smithsburg. I came to you a month earlier. What did you do? So this is a picture of the Peter Bickford tent. This is your leg in the corner, Stan Stauffer, your husband, David Williams. That's me about to get arrested by a sheriff's deputy because a woman who's friends with you that you were talking to, this woman that I got off the body camera from the sheriff's deputies, part of public records request, this lady who was talking to you prior called the cops or met with the cops, did meet with this particular deputy. Let me show you his picture. Johnny Bravo hairdo guy, Washington County Sheriff's Office. She met with him on your behalf, and you guys tried to have me arrested for my free speech that made you look ridiculous, that made citizens come up and shake my hands, and even a Washington County public school teacher came up and agreed with me about how you treated my disabled son and how that girl should have been able to graduate with her black lipstick, even though you didn't like it. You know, and that was a clear violation. She also agreed that the gay pornography books should not be in schools and that no pornography books should be in school libraries because it's not the job of the government to provide sexually explicit material to children under 18. In fact, you can't go to a 7-Eleven and buy Hustler or Playboy or any of those magazines if you're under 18, but if you go to a public school library, you can learn all about gay sex and statutory rape by your uncle. It's ridiculous. Now, furthermore, you made statements to members of the community who will testify later that I am stalking you and you caught me at your house at night. I contacted Washington County Emergency Communications Department and I spoke with Deputy Director in charge, Kelly Fisher. She said no such records or calls existed for me to get. So someone was on your property at night. You think it was me, but you didn't call the police? You're trying to actually blame the victim for coming forward and making you look bad, and for 65 million people watching that board meeting. Okay, that's how many views you got, 65 million. And I'm going to leave you with this here today. My son is at Maryland School for the Deaf. Miss Deaf Maryland, who's going to Taiwan to compete as a beauty pageant thing for deaf children,
her mom reached out and told me that you guys did the same thing. You refused to transfer her child to Maryland School for the Deaf, and they had to fight tooth and nail like we did to get the transfer completed. And it appears to be a violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act on all fronts as well. I've been getting bombarded by disabled students, including an autistic child's mother. I'm going to send all of it to Daryl Evans, April Zentmiller, or Michael Gusford after this meeting because I don't want to give the kid's name and the parents' names in a public session. I'm going to email it to these people because I trust them. I don't trust any of you teachers union hacks with that information, but I'm hoping that these disabled children get the type of transfers that they need or the help that they need. But just to let you know, you have one of your students who just recently turned 19, a kid that I've known since he was 16. He's a little bit of a local known celebrity. He's autistic as you can possibly get. He doesn't understand right from wrong. He was supposed to be put in a special program for autistic children. Instead, he was sent to some school for bad kids because he was disruptive, because he was disabled. Now, I know for a fact he is extremely, extremely learning disabled. Just to let you know, you guys failed this child. You, in particular, as the president, failed this child. Stan Style for vice president failed this child. He is sitting in jail facing 45 years. Thank God he's going to be found incompetent and subsequently found not criminally responsible for the acts that he took because he was put in with bad kids instead of given the treatment that he needed as an autistic student. So good job. You are sending a kid to possibly 45 years in jail because you didn't want to put him in with autistic children. You wanted to send him to the bad kid school, just like what you did with my kid, putting him in with delinquents and disruptive children. I still got 2 minutes and 30 seconds left, Linda. Why are you holding that postcard at me, Linda? I still have 2 minutes and 30 seconds left, Linda. So anyway, if you want to start timing the 2 minutes and 30 seconds, I would appreciate it. So that's what you did to that poor kid. I'm not going to say his name because I don't want to embarrass the heck out of him, but he was in the paper. He was all over Facebook. He's well known. It's an embarrassment to Washington County residents, taxpayers, an embarrassment to me, an embarrassment to my children, an embarrassment to you because you're in charge of everything. You also said you're not responsible for the day-to-day operations that led to all the poor treatment that my son suffered through. Well, let me tell you something. I see the guy directly responsible for the day-to-day operations sitting next to you, and he serves at your pleasure. You guys have not taken a vote to fire Dr. David Sovine, and you haven't fired Dr. Annette Walters. Those are the people that refused to transfer my son to Maryland School for the Deaf for months and allowed him to get his ass whooped by the juvenile delinquents you stuck him in with because he was disruptive, because the kid couldn't talk and couldn't communicate, because he needed an interpreter and he needed to learn ASL in school as part of his curriculum. You denied him the ability to be transferred to Maryland School for the Deaf. January, February, March, April, finally transferred on May 8th, suffered the whole time, came home crying. I already told you all this stuff, so I'm just duplicitous testimony here at this point. The bottom line is you guys haven't changed because that man is still sitting there and you have taken no action. And as far as you knowing ahead of time, before this board meeting, I came in here with my attorney, and Dr. David Savin would not meet with him before that board meeting, the one that got famous that everybody knows I'm referring to on June 18th. Dr. David Savine refused a meeting with Attorney Tom Stoltz and myself to discuss problems we were having with the school board. You tried to have me arrested a month earlier in Smithsburg because you didn't like the fact I was making you look bad arguing with you and Stan Stauffer there. Dr. Crypt Keeper himself, look at him with that black suit. He already looks like a corpse. He's almost 80 years old. Jesus. Anyway, you haven't fired anyone that's responsible. You're a board president, and I'm hoping the citizens do what's right. Melissa and Stan need to get canned. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mr. Porter. Is there anyone else who would like to speak?
Praise the Lord. How y'all doing? My
Good
name
evening.
is Ray Stobbs. I let it be on record.
What's your last name?
Stobbs.
S-T-A-U-B?
S.
Staub?
Stobbs. Yes,
Let it be on record that I usually go by Brother Ray, and let it be on record that I don't agree with Mr. Porter's filthy mouth, and I'm glad that he went a whole 5 minutes without saying any foul language. So I give him props for that. He did slip up in the last 2.5 minutes, though. That being said, my name is Brother Ray. I have a YouTube channel called Brother Ray. I identify as brother, as daddy, as he, him, and his. I find it repulsive that we're even bringing up the subject of pronouns, especially in front of our children today, in public schools, in the public forum. These things should not be pushed. These things should not be promoted on the youth. Do you understand? It's no more than child mental molestation is what it is. It's raping the minds of minors. And like Mr. Porter said, if there's anybody here trying to promote LGBT curriculum down the throats of children, or you are in support of it, shame on you. You ought to be locked up. And then, if you are for transgenders in the bathrooms of public schools where minors are, shame on you. You ought to be locked up for that. And also, with filthy nude pictures in books in public libraries in a public school has no place. Is there any perverts on this panel that agrees with that behavior? Would you like to raise your hand? Anybody? Do we have any in the closet or out of the closet LGBT supporters that want to ram that curriculum down the throats of minors on this board? Let it be said right now. Because here's the deal. One day you're all going to die and you're all going to stand before the God of the Bible. Jesus Christ is not a pansy feminist, limp-wristed, marijuana smoking, cuddly teddy bear God that most people think he is today. He's holy. He was without sin. And our children need the word of God reinstated back into the public forum is what we need. What happened to saying the Pledge of Allegiance? Do you guys say the Pledge of Allegiance? What is wrong with us? We are a disgrace. We're losing our country. We're losing our children to drug overdoses, now to pornography and filth that parents want to shove down the throats of minors. You have no place to dictate what a child does when it comes to that, to their sexuality. You understand? That is the parent's decision. And shame on most of the parents that are allowing it today. But you guys can do better. I want to leave you with this scripture. Jesus Christ said that if you offend one of these little ones, it would be better that a millstone would be tied around your neck and you would be cast into the depths of the sea. Let me break that down to you. The seriousness of offending these little ones is Jesus Christ said it'd be better to wrap a rope around your neck and put a boulder on the other end and go stand on the Bay Bridge and jump into the Chesapeake Bay. Do you understand the consequences of the eternal judgment against these abominations? Leave the children alone. And we need the 10 Commandments and the Word of God. Thank God for Louisiana, the governor, and the people of Louisiana that are putting the 10 Commandments on every classroom wall, K through college. Hallelujah. And thank God for the Oklahoma senator or governor or whoever it was that's putting the Bible, the Word of God, back into the schools. What are you afraid of? Are you afraid of thou shalt not kill? Is that what you're afraid of? Aren't you against the murders and these school shootings? Are you afraid of thou shalt not kill? I mean, what are we afraid of? Are we afraid of, we don't want to offend certain people, right? Like, you know, the Muslims, this, that, and the other, because the number one commandment is thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Do you know the word of God? Because we're all heading towards the judgment seat of Christ. I love you. I speak the truth in love, and may you do the right thing.
Thank you, Mr. Stubbs. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward to address the board? Good evening.
Good evening. I have time to fill this out real quick. I promise I won't yell at you and scream. Good evening, Dr. Williams, Superintendent Dr. Sabine, board members, and our new student rep. My name is Robin Merchant Spickler, and I came tonight because I wanted to compliment some of the things that are happening in Washington County Public Schools. Washington County Public Schools continue to work diligently on the growing behavior concerns and support for all students and staff, especially now with the funding from the board for the board-certified behavior analysis. Having taught in the Washington County Public Schools for 44 years, I know firsthand the many behavior concerns that have been dealt with and are being dealt with on a daily basis. The behaviors concerns have escalated at a rate that exceeds how quickly support could be put in place. I'm going to be reaching out to some Washington County Public behavior staff because I want to learn more about what is happening and what they're experiencing. The Washington County behavior staff, I want to learn, I want to support them and see what is needed for them as well as students. I want to take the time to listen and learn from the staff that are on the front line as what is needed so that I can effectively help and have a clearer feel for what is required that by all that's involved. Also, high fives around to everybody. I was going to start singing "Celebrate Good Time," but I'm not going to do that. But anyways, high fives around for everybody in the Washington County Public Schools. From being ranked nearly last in the state's kindergarten readiness assessment up to being ranked 4th in the state in the percentage of young learners determined to be ready for kindergarten. Because of the many pre-K programs and the professional developments, opportunities given to the pre-K teachers and paraprofessionals, there has been lots of growth of students being ready when they go into kindergarten. Having taught kindergarten, what a difference that makes when they've had that preschool experience. The growth comes from teachers, support staff, student staff, families, and the community who help to support the pre-K programs. Early childhood programs help to develop the most important years in a child's life. It's necessary to continue to set the basis for every student in Washington County Public Schools so that they may be successful and promote lifelong learners. Also, Maryland has the fastest growth of community schools in the United States. I can compliment you on the fact of having many community school personnel in most of the schools. I'm not sure how many have been placed in this coming year, but you have stepped up to the plate. And the Washington County has embraced that spirit of community schools, a place that's going to be dedicated to the culture of belonging and the success of every member of the community. Such schools will be the village that students and families can count on, tap into, and grow within and beyond. When the blueprint is implemented, because it is the law, you will be way ahead of the group, and you will receive definitely funding programs to help with this. And for you, I commend you for those things. So thank you for your time. I'll finish this. Is there anybody else? Sorry.
Can you just say canoodles?
Thank you, Mrs. Spickler.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else who would like to come forward to speak during public comment? Okay, at this time we'll have board member response to public comment. Colleagues?
Well, I'd just like to say that somebody said we didn't say the Pledge of Allegiance anymore, and I'm fairly positive that we do. We always say it. Every classroom I've ever been in, we say the Pledge of Allegiance in the morning. So I don't know why that rumor has gotten started, but we do say the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. And as far as, I'm not sure people understand what the Board of Education actually does. We're a governing board. We only have one employee, and that's the superintendent. We don't know the day-to-day happenings in a school. That goes through a chain of command, and oftentimes we are not privileged to certain information in case that person needs to bring it in front of the board, and then we have no knowledge of it so that we can be fair and impartial. So people think that every time some little problem happens that we are handling it. We are not handling it. We have the superintendent, and he is in charge of everything and handles it. He doesn't come to us with every little thing. So I hope people understand that. It's not that we don't care. We care about all of the kids. We care about everybody in the school system. But we don't get to hear the day-to-day problems. So that's it.
Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Anyone else? Okay. That brings us to old business. Our first action item under old business this evening is the second reading of proposed changes to policy GCDA, staff employment, transfer, and separation from service and non-discrimination statement, and proposed rescissions of policy GDPB, resignation non-certificated employees, and policy GDD, hiring non-certificated personnel. Mrs. Rand.
Thank you, President Williams, Dr. Sabine, members of the board. The Board of Education approved the first reading of the proposed changes at its public business meeting on June 18, 2024. Following the approval, the policy committee placed public notice. No comments were received. The committee is now recommending the Board of Education approve the second reading of proposed changes to policy GCDA and the rescissions of policies GDPB and GDD.
Is there a motion, please?
Madam President, I move to approve the second reading of proposed changes to policy GCDA, staff employment, transfer, and separation from service, and non-discrimination statement, and the proposed rescissions of policy GDPB, resignation, non-certificated employees, and policy GDD, hiring non-certificated personnel.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer, is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Any discussion, any questions? Okay, we'll move to the vote. Do I need to restate that? Does everyone understand?
No.
Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. All right, we have a unanimous vote, and the student member concurs. Okay, next is the second reading of proposed changes to policy ADD, health and safety, and proposed rescissions of policy EBD, asbestos, and policy JHCC, communicable diseases, employees and students. Is there a motion, please?
Madam President, I move to approve the second reading of proposed changes to policy ADD, health and safety, and the proposed rescissions of policy EBD, asbestos, and policy JHCC, communicable diseases, employees, and students.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Any questions, any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, we have 7. Student member concurs. Motion carries. Okay, next is the second reading of proposed changes to policy EHB, records, retention, and disposition. Is there a motion, please?
Move to approve the second reading of proposed changes to policy EHB, records, retention, and disposition.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Any questions, any discussion? Move to the vote. All those in favor? Okay, we have a unanimous vote, and the student member concurs. Motion carries. Next, we have the second reading of proposed changes to policy JHCE, providing personal health care services to students. Is there a motion, please?
Madam President, I move to approve the second reading of proposed changes to policy JHCE, providing personal health care services to students.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Any discussion? Any questions? All those in favor of the motion? Okay, we have a unanimous vote. 7 affirmative, student member concurs. All right, next is the second reading of proposed changes to policy ADF, wellness, physical, and nutritional health. Is there a motion?
Madam President, I move to approve the second reading of proposed changes to policy ADF, wellness, physical, and nutritional health.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Is there a second, please? Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Any questions, any discussion? To the vote, all those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. 7 affirmative, student member concurs. Motion carries. Next is second reading of proposed changes to policy BCAA, organization, number, composition. Is there a motion, please?
Madam President, I move to approve the second reading to rescind policy BCAA, organization, number, and composition.
Thank you. Mr. Stauffer, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Any discussion, any questions?
I would just like to add that I think it was Mr. Gessford asked a question about this last meeting. If this had been totally done or something, I can't remember his comment, by the state legislature. No, this, to change the number of the members on the Board of Education, that would have been a local piece of legislation coming from the county. So all changes like that have to go through the state legislature, but that would have not been undone arbitrarily by the state government.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. So we're voting to approve the second reading to rescind policy BCAA, organization, number, composition. All those in favor? Okay, we have 7. That's a unanimous vote, and student member concurs. All right. Our last, epinephrine. Okay. The second reading of proposed changes to policy JHCF, epinephrine availability and use requirements. Is there a motion, please?
Madam President, I move to approve the second reading of proposed changes to policy JHCF, epinephrine availability and use requirements.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Is there a second? Second. Thank you. Ms. Murray. We'll move to the vote. We're voting to approve the second reading of proposed changes to policy JHCF. All those in favor, please. All right, we have a unanimous vote. Student member concurs. Motion carries.
And may I add something here at this point?
Certainly.
I was asked by a constituent since the last meeting, who all's on this, they watch the meetings and they say, who's all on the policy committee? And there are 3 of us. Mrs. Williams is on it, Mr. Evans is on it, and I am on it. So the 3 of us are the people who basically come up with, approve the language to bring forth to the full board for consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Okay, if you'll just give me a minute, please, to pull out what I need to pull out. Does everyone have theirs pulled out from their packet? Because we have a change in the agenda. We're now at number 8, which is the consent agenda that we moved from new business to old. So we're looking at the consent agenda. And we're looking at
Except for the first one.
9 at this time, that everyone's understanding? Okay, so is there a motion, please?
President Williams, I move to approve the awards, renewals, and procurements for Zonar GPS system renewal to Zonar Systems Incorporated at a cost of $64,610.35. Produce renewal to Seashore Fruit and Produce Company Incorporated, Greensburg Farm Warehouse and Reinhardt Orchards at the unit price listed. Warehouse and delivery services for food and nutrition services, renewal to Acela Distribution and Warehousing, LLC, Acela Worldwide Solutions Incorporated at the unit price listed. Heating oil supply and delivery, renewal to AC&T Company Incorporated at the unit prices listed. Athletic trainer services, renewal to Meritus Medical Group Center at an approximate cost of $463,636.60. Juniper Service Support and Licensing to Skyline Technology Solutions at a cost of $84,578. Kitchen, smallwares, and small equipment to Cooks Direct Incorporated at a cost of $8,396.96. Johnny's Incorporated at a cost of $12,608.83. MTS Equipment Incorporated at a cost of $28,023.75. And Sam Tell and Son Incorporated at a cost of $37,130.63. And theatrical rigging and architectural lighting inspection, maintenance, and repair service to Barbizon Lighting Capital Incorporated, Par Lights Concert Lighting Incorporated, and Stage Rigging Services Incorporated at the unit prices listed.
Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Is there a second, please? Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Any questions, any discussion? Okay, then we are moving to the vote. All those in favor, the consent agenda? Okay, we have a unanimous vote of 7 affirmative, and the student member concurs. That brings us now to the 9th item under old business, which is consideration of the renewal of the board certified behavior analyst, RFP 2023-07. Is there a motion, please?
President Williams, I move to approve the awards, renewals, and procurements for board certified behavior analysts, renewal to Maryland Behavioral Consulting, DBA Applied ABC at the unit price listed.
Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Any questions, any discussion? All right. No? Yes?
Do you have any idea how much we paid for this position last year?
So in FY '23, we spent approximately $200,000.
Okay, and that's for one person?
That I don't know. I don't know if there was more than one person under that.
Is that FY '23 or '24?
I'm sorry, FY '24, yes.
So we're paying for one person what we would pay for 2 teachers? 5 parapros?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Can I say something? Yes. But the teachers and the parapros aren't behavior specialists. They're not trained to do what these people were trained to do. They help the teachers and they help the parapros. So they're very valuable. And this is not out of the general fund, am I correct on that, or it is?
Concentration of poverty.
Correct.
That's
Yeah.
right.
I am not saying that they are not valuable, not at all. In fact, the positions that we have in the schools that I've talked to have been very valuable. I'm just saying for one contract, I can get 2 for one if we hire them rather than contract those services.
Right, right. And we should hire them instead of, it would be wonderful to hire them. You're right, Dr. Zentmeyer. instead of contract.
Is there any further discussion? Okay, then we are voting on Mrs. Murray's motion, Mr. Stauffer's second, to approve the renewal of the board-certified behavior analyst. All those in favor, please raise your hand. 4. I'm sorry, Daphne, did you have your hand up? Okay, student member concurs. Opposed? 3 opposed. Okay, motion carries with 4 affirmative and 3 in opposition. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we got through that old business, and now we are at the superintendent's report, which will be continued after new business. So, Dr. Savine, to you.
Thank you, President Williams, Vice President Stauffer, and members of the board. In our recent meetings, we've discussed the benefits of the behavioral services provided to students by our board-certified analysts, behavior analysts, rather, and commonly called BCBAs. These experts are also a resource for our teachers and school teams, increasing capacity for supporting the needs of our students. To share a further snapshot of the services provided by our BCBAs and to highlight the positive impact these professionals have had in our schools, I'd like to invite Dr. Jennifer Webster, our Associate Superintendent for Leadership and Administration, to provide tonight's spotlight on BCBA services in one of our schools. Dr. Webster.
Thank you. Good evening, President Williams, members of the board, and Dr. Savine. As Dr. Savine just mentioned, we've had discussion over the last few meetings about what exactly our board-certified behavioral analysts do and the impact they're having on school climate, specifically how their work supports student regulation and growth in their behavioral skills. This evening, we would like to share a school highlight of the work of Bester Elementary and what this team has done with the support of their BCBA, Ms. Nicole Zinich. We selected Bester for this highlight because they've had a full-time BCBA as part of their staff for the longest of any of our schools, 2.5 years now. So let's take a look at Bester's story.
Can we get that television turned around so we can see it? Thank you. Thank you very much.
As an educator and even as an admin. Doesn't work, what do we want to do? We want to fix it. We're just not meeting the needs of the students, and at times it was beginning to feel unsafe. We were really dealing with some things we had not experienced before. We weren't going to give up. We knew we've got to dig deep, figure out the right resources. Just like teachers were asking for a coach in the moment in the classroom, as an admin team, as an engaged team, as a school, we really needed a behavioral coach who could be beside of us watching, observing, giving us that next step. If we weren't successful, encouraging us to maybe continue on.
A BCBA is a board-certified behavior analyst. Really the focus of their work is really trying to understand what are those environmental things that are going around behavior. And once we understand those environmental factors that influence behavior, really we can work with people to really change those factors in order to get to see the behavior that we want to see happen to happen.
I started at Marshall Street. I worked there for 12 years. The teacher that worked across the hall from me was getting her BCBA, and so I asked her to help me a lot. And the next thing you know, that's what I was doing, and was learning ABA strategies and really making a difference in children's behaviors. And it was an awesome thing to be able to impact a student like that. We're teaching kids how to communicate. A lot of these kids don't have functional communication skills to just be able to say, this is really hard.
We don't want these kids acting out or being aggressive as a way to communicate. We want to understand them so that way they feel like this is a safe space and this place is where they belong.
Oftentimes the root of the behavior is some skill gap that the student is experiencing. So it may be that they're not successful in asking for what they want. Other students really struggle when they get told no and have to learn how to handle being told no. And so once we can identify what that skill gap is, we can work with the team in order to teach that specific skill.
Having a full-time BCBA was life-changing for our admin team to learn. None of us went to school for specifically behavior, so we don't know what we don't know.
I would say I'm like a coach, that I coach behavioral strategies. I model what to do in situations. I explain why I'm doing that and how is it supposed to work. And then the person that I'm coaching then implements the strategies. I give them feedback and then they know how to do it.
And everything is very data driven. So nothing is just kind of thrown out there as like, well, try this. She goes through observations. She talks with other staff members who work closely with the students. She even talks to me and looks at these students' strengths.
It's a huge difference down the line. When you keep working at that skill every single day, you see a change after a couple of weeks or a couple of months in those kids.
When I would have kids with challenging behaviors, a lot of the time before they were taken out of the classroom, losing all that instruction. Now, one of my main goals, and I know one of Mrs. Z's main goals, was to keep kids in the classroom, to give them as much instruction as they could.
It makes me feel a little bit more in control as the teacher and the facilitator in the classroom. And it just really establishes, positive relationships, not with just me and the students, but student to student.
I feel like it's helped keep staff here because they're not as overwhelmed. They're not as stressed when some of these situations arise. They know that we have an expert. We know that we have the people here with the skills and the knowledge to assist in these situations.
The culture and climate have changed. Attendance has increased. Students are coming to school. Teachers are coming to school. So we saw an increase in attendance. Once you feel safe and you feel like your needs are being met, that's a place where you want to be.
And that is the goal, making sure that these students are getting exactly what they need so that they can be successful, because they deserve to be successful.
And as we've discussed previously, Bester is able to employ a full-time BCBA because of their COP funds. And Bester and other of our COP schools are seeing the benefit of a full-time BCBA on staff. And you can see we're very proud of the work that our administrative team at Bester has done in collaboration with their BCBA, and we can see the impact that that has on really supporting the developmental growth of our students and overall school climate. So that concludes my highlight of the Bester team and their work with their BCBA.
Thank you, Dr. Webster. President Williams, that concludes the first portion of my presentation. Certainly remain open to any questions board members may have regarding this report.
Mrs. Murray?
No, I just want to make a comment with Dr. Webster. So the BCBAs work on different types of behaviors. You have kids that come to school on any given day, and they might be pushing, and they might be shoving, and they might be talking back to the teacher. That's not what we're talking about here. We are talking about students that need help because they have issues and they don't know how to work it out. So they need help, they need guidance, the teacher needs guidance. They need to look at it from all different angles to find the best possible solution, the best way to work with this child to get them to their goals, correct?
Yes, the BCBAs work specifically where there is a skill gap. It's an important point you're making. There's a difference between I'm having a bad day and I made a bad choice and the counseling or the consequence that happens and we keep it moving, right? This is where we have students who, just like we have students who are behind in reading and math, and there's a gap there, we develop an intervention plan to develop the students' literacy or mathematical skills. That's what our BCBAs do, and as Ms. Saucy said in the video, and we've discussed previously, our teachers, administrators, we didn't major in behavioral skill coaching, we majored in education of academia. So having these professionals as part of our staff is such an asset to our teaching staff. And what we have heard from our Bester team and other staff around the county, they're learning from having the BCBA in their classroom. And so the skills that they're learning about how to teach, how to identify a skill gap for a student in terms of behavior, and then how to incrementally teach, and help students to learn those coping skills, or as Dr. Gravelin said, how to handle disappointment, all of those specific skills that end up with an outburst. It's really benefiting in developing the skill set of our adult staff across the board.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Mr. Evans?
So they made the claim that the students' attendance is better, behaviors are better. Can we see the data that correlates that information with the BCBA and the students?
Absolutely.
Showing that the attendance is better with these kids too?
Absolutely. We can, I know just from last board meeting, the referral data for Bester is down 42% this last school year from the previous year. And we could pull their attendance data is up. I remember I've been out to talk with the Bester team, and they monitor it very carefully. Their attendance has increased this year, so we can certainly share the specific data with the board.
I'm talking about the students that are working directly with these BCBAs and their attendance, and also their behaviors. Because what I would also like to see is, what do we define success as for the BCBAs? Because I'll be honest with you, I live in the Bester Elementary zone, and there's a lot of kids in my neighborhood, and one of them is even my neighbor, and the behavior they tell me about is frightening, to be honest with you. So I'm saddened to see that we're painting just a rosy picture like nothing's wrong, when the kids in the schools have brought up to me that there's big concerns they have, that sometimes they don't want to go to school. So, I think we need to celebrate successes where we can, but we also need to be realistic in that there are still some pretty significant problems. And, we got data, we've been talking about this now for a month and a half, 2 months now. We got data that just showed horrible behavior numbers. So I think we need to be a little more realistic. I think we need to know what the goal is for these BCBAs to be able to consider them to be successful. And I personally wonder if these BCBAs are great when used in small numbers for very specific situations, when we could be using the COP money to add more teachers where we know there are, because we also know that most of these students are repeat offenders, and if we had more teachers, smaller class sizes, that would alleviate an overwhelming majority of our problems. So I just wonder if we're using these efficiently. I don't have an issue with the BCBAs, but I think they're overused, and I think that we have other strategies like Antietam Academy. I assume Antietam Academy is overpopulated, and that's why we're not sending more kids there. But I struggle to see where I'd like to see the numbers.
President Williams,
Yes, sir.
if I may, our team will be more than willing to provide data as requested by the board, but also perhaps more importantly, as we look to the start of the school year, I invite all of our board members to consider a visit and spending some time at Bester Elementary School, or any of our elementary schools, but in particular Bester. I know 2 years ago when I visited within the first month of starting as superintendent here, the Bester that was then and the Bester now is much different. The culture and the focus on student learning and reaching each and every child is pretty significant. And this is one of our highest poverty schools. I want to extend my congratulations and just express my appreciation to the leadership and the staff at Bester, because they are working together as a team to take into account the needs of each and every child there. And I have seen it in place. They work, and it's a part of their structure on a daily basis and throughout the week. They look at their student successes, and they look at areas where they can improve and how they can work with their behavior specialists and teams to provide the best supports for those students, in many cases have significant needs. So I invite board members to consider visiting Bester and spending time with having conversations with our students, with our staff, and the leadership team there.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes, Mrs. Murray.
I have to give Dr. Zentmeyer a lot of credit because she has been having meetings at schools and our curriculum instruction meetings. And one school we did visit was Bester. And we learned so much about exactly what we're talking about and how much they have grown and how things have improved. And I thought that was and I think it's a great idea that you have us going to different schools. And I look forward to this coming school year so that we can visit more. But yeah, we learned a lot about Bester. It was very, very positive. We were very excited when we walked out the door. So,
Pangborn, too.
yes. So kudos to you.
And
for-
Easton. And
Yeah.
Sharpsburg.
Absolutely.
They were all great visits.
Everywhere we go. But thank you for that, because that opens our eyes. We get to see a lot of what's going on in the different schools. So keep up the good work.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Yes.
I had a
Ms.
quick
Rowland.
question. Are BCBAs primarily in elementary schools?
Great question. Yes, our BCBAs, we've focused on elementary schools because looking back in the last couple of years, that's where we had our most significant need in terms of requests for support. And we have one BCBA now dedicated to secondary. So we will be able to bring some of the skills that we're seeing and the successes that we're seeing in our elementary schools to our middle and high schools in the coming years. So we're excited about that.
Great, thank you.
Dr. Webster, or President Williams, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Just as an additional highlight, I know reference Pangborn and Bester. We've received much attention at the state level from MSDE, and we have implemented now 2 years going the science of reading, and I believe Bester may have been the site where we had guests from the state and a very diverse group for 2 days to kind of highlight the instructional focus and to also provide an opportunity for them to get a glance at the learning culture there. I know the feedback that we received from our external guests was overwhelmingly positive. Dr. Webster.
Absolutely. And I also want to say something that's very important, and I feel very compelled to acknowledge again the work that our team at Bester has done, our leadership team, our teachers you saw in the video. What you heard in that video is their belief in children. They believe in every single one of the kids that they serve, and they are committed as adults to learning what they need to learn to meet the needs of their students. And they feel very strongly that their collaboration as a team and the knowledge and skills that they've learned from their BCBA, and it's a team effort, right? And that's one thing you hear from the Bester team. It's a team effort. And I am very proud to support the team out there, and the leadership of Tamsin Wilson, principal, and her administrative team are just doing an amazing job. And it's amazing instruction with the CKLA implementation, the high-quality resource across math and literacy, and their belief in kids, their structures they put in place to support behavioral skill gaps and respond to student need is impressive, and it deserves recognition all night long.
Thank you, Dr. Webster.
Thank you.
Dr. Sabine, thank you. Look forward to the rest of your report following new business. Okay, we'll move on to new business. Our first item of new business is the first reading of proposed changes to policy ECD, use of motorized vehicles on school property. Is there a motion, please?
Yes, I would like to ask my fellow committee member, Mr. Evans, if he would please second these motions, since you're part of the process for producing them. I'd appreciate that very much.
Maybe I will.
Madam President, I move to approve the first reading of proposed changes to policy ECD entitled Use of Motorized Vehicles on School Property.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. Any questions? Any discussion? We're voting to approve the first reading of proposed changes to policy ECD entitled Use of Motorized Vehicles on School Property. All those in favor? Okay. We've lost someone? Okay.
Mr. Guthrie walked away for a minute.
6 affirmative, and the student member concurs. So the motion carries. Next is the first reading of proposed changes to policy JED, student registered sex offenders, entry on school property. Is there a motion, please?
Madam President, I move to approve the first reading of proposed changes to policy JED, entitled Student Registered Sex Offenders, Entry on School Property.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. Are there any questions, any discussion? Okay, we'll move to the vote. We're voting to approve the first reading of proposed changes to policy JED entitled Student Registered Sex Offenders. All those in favor? Mr. Stauffer, you voting?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
6 affirmative. Student member concurs.
I was looking at the next motion.
That's all right. All right. Next up is the first reading of proposed changes to policy DD, grant funding from public and private sources.
Madam President, I move to approve the first reading of proposed changes to policy DD entitled Grant Funding from Public and Private Sources.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Any questions, any discussion? Okay, we'll move to the vote. We're voting to approve the first reading of proposed changes to policy DD entitled Grant Funding from Public and Private Sources. All those in favor? 6 affirmative. Student member concurs. Motion carries. Next is the first reading of proposed changes to policy DID, inventory of textbooks.
Ready for the motion?
I'm ready for the motion.
Madam President, I move to approve the first reading of proposed changes to policy DID entitled Inventory of Textbooks.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Any questions, any discussion? Move to the vote. We're voting to approve the first reading of proposed changes to policy DID entitled Inventory of Textbooks. All those in favor? We have 7 affirmative. Student member concurs. Motion carries. Okay, next up is first reading of proposed changes to policy EDC, authorized use of school-owned property. Is there a motion, please?
Madam President, I move to approve the first reading of proposed changes to policy EDC entitled Authorized Use of School-Owned Property.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Any questions, any discussion? Okay, we'll move to the vote. We're voting to approve the first reading of proposed changes to policy EDC entitled Authorized Use of School-Owned Property. All those in favor? 7 affirmative. Student member concurs. Okay, next is the first reading of proposed changes to policy GBEB, drugs and alcohol testing, transportation personnel. Is there a motion, please?
Madam President, I move to approve the first reading of proposed changes to policy GBEB entitled Drugs and Alcohol Testing, Transportation Personnel.
Thank you, Mrs. Stauffer. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. Any questions, any discussion? Okay, we'll move to the vote. We're voting to approve the first reading of proposed changes to policy GBEB entitled Drugs and Alcohol Testing, Transportation Personnel. All those in favor? Okay, we have 7 affirmative, a unanimous vote. Student concurs. And our final first reading is to rescind policy GCBD, professional leaves and absences. Is there a motion?
Madam President, I move to approve the first reading to rescind policy GCBD entitled Professional Leaves and Absences.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Is there a second?
Second.
Bickford. Any questions, any discussion? We're voting to approve the first reading to rescind policy GCBD entitled Professional Leaves and Absences. All those in favor? Okay, we have 7 affirmative. Student member concurs. Motion carries. And that concludes our policies under new business. Our next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. And we have Mr. Bechtel here to help us with that. So this appears as number 9 on your agenda. You don't have a a scorecard. You only have an agenda to follow. Okay, is there a motion, please?
Madam President, I move to approve the awards, renewals, and procurements for kitchen equipment at various schools to Douglas Equipment at a cost of $106,905.40, and MTS Equipment at a cost of $429,477. Library Management System Software renewal to Follett School Solutions, Inc. at a cost of $52,038.36. Microsoft licenses annual subscription to Bell Technologics at a cost of $536,110.60. Go Guardian Teacher License annual subscription to CDWG at a cost of $121,050. Design Build Emergency Radio Signal Enhancement System at North Hagerstown High School to Bear Communications, Inc. at a cost of $51,481. And Mental and Behavioral Health Providers renewal to various vendors, unit prices.
Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Is there any discussion, any questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to the vote. We're voting to approve the awards, renewals, and procurements as read by Mr. Bickford in his motion and seconded by Mrs. Murray. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, we have 7 affirmative. Student member concurs, so the motion carries, and we have an approved consent agenda. Thank you, Mr. Bechtel. Okay, our next item for consideration is emergency procurement for the board's ratification, and we have Mr. Bechtel with us for that. Is there a motion, please?
Madam President, I move to ratify the emergency procurement for portable classroom improvements at Pangbourne and Emma K. Dowd Elementary Schools at a cost of $96,000.
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Any discussion, any questions?
I have a question. Question and a comment. You know, we just approved our budget process, or went through our budget process and approved our budget. And here we are in the first meeting of the fiscal year after we got a bare bones budget, and now all of a sudden we have an emergency procurement. So I do find that interesting, but my question is, you know, we don't have any information with this. There's no supporting documents, nothing. We're just asked to blindly say, go ahead and spend $96,000 on these portables, and if they need work, they need work. I'm fine with that, but could you tell us what the emergency is? And because we also have a bare bones budget, could you tell us what is coming out of our budget this year so that we can pay for this?
Mr. Evans, I think I can answer that question. So in terms of the details, those were all forwarded to board members a few weeks back, just prior to the July 4th holiday, under separate cover email from Dr. Savine. So the repairs are related to entryways and steps to create a second egress out of 4 portables, 3 at Pangbourne Elementary and 1 at Emma K. Dowd Elementary. The portables had previously been approved for occupancy 2 years ago, I believe, with a single door entry, and as of late, the fire marshal asked for the second door entry and was not going to reallow occupancy for the start of school without the entries. So that's why this was done as emergency procurement, to ensure that we had time for the contractor to do the work to have the portables ready for the first day of school. In relation to the second part of the question as to what won't be done, within the maintenance fund, there's any number of items that may or may not get done in any given year, and there's always room within the building renovations line of the budget that really is left aside for things that come up through the year, something that breaks, something that has to be repaired that you're not counting for. That's where this $94,000 will be funded from.
Are there any other questions? All right, we'll move to the vote. We're voting to ratify the emergency procurement for portable classroom improvements at Pangbourne and Emma K. Dowd Elementary School at a cost of $96,000. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, our next item of new business is the consideration of the adoption of the strategic plan. Dr. Savine and Dr. Webster.
Thank you, President Williams. Members of the board, before the board takes action on the strategic plan, I'd like to once again extend my gratitude to our design team and our steering committee for their dedication and commitment to the development of our strategic plan. These parents, students, staff, and community partners have truly invested much of their time, energy, and consideration over the past several months. Prior to tonight's meeting, the board and the community received 3 monthly briefings about our progress on this strategic plan. The board has had the opportunity to engage and to provide feedback related to these updates. In addition, I, along with Dr. Webster and our partners from HMH, have periodically engaged our business community and the leadership of our 3 unit groups and have welcomed their feedback throughout this process. I'm pleased to say that each of these groups have been extremely complimentary of our strategic planning work. At this time, I'd like to introduce once again Dr. Jennifer Webster, Associate Superintendent for Leadership and Administration, to provide another brief overview of the key components of our strategic plan that will serve as our guiding compass over the next 5 years.
Thank you. Good evening again, President Williams, members of the board, and Dr. Savine. We are excited to bring you our completed district strategic plan, which includes our revised vision, mission, and core values, as well as our portrait of a graduate competencies, our 4 district priorities, and the goals and objectives for each of those priority areas. As Dr. Savine said, this was a collaborative effort among many of our staff and community members, and we can't thank them enough for their time and thoughtful engagement in the process. On the strategic plan website document, you will see the voices of some of our design team members elevated as they reflected on their engagement in the strategic planning process. So again, a huge thank you to those who helped us in the development and who will likely be called upon again to help us in the implementation, feedback, and the continuous cycle of improvement. To start tonight's review, we have seen the revised vision and mission and core values along with our 4 priority areas shown on the screen here. We've reviewed these in previous meetings, so I'm going to focus tonight on highlighting the new information since our last update, which are the objectives for each of the 4 priority areas that will guide our work. So here you see an overview of the 4 priority areas and the supporting objectives. For each objective, you will see the measurements below. We set measurable targets for the objectives that we felt confident, where we felt confident in our current baseline data, and were applicable, made sure that it aligned with the goals of Blueprint. Some of our objectives, though, require us to take next year to establish baseline data, and you'll see that indicated in the measurement section that will say X with a little asterisk that says to be determined after this year's baseline data year is concluded. So for our first priority area around student success, the 4 objectives that the design team and steering committee elevated are first, kindergarten readiness, specifically increasing the percentage of our students entering kindergarten ready to learn as measured by the MSDE readiness assessment. The second objective is to increase the rate of students on track for meeting the college and career readiness standards in ELA and math compared to the baseline year from grades 3 to 8 and grade 10 and 12. The third objective is to increase the number of K-12 students meeting grade level expectations in core instruction in literacy and math. And the fourth is to increase student engagement as measured by participation in academic sports, club organizations, cultural activities, arts programs, and extracurriculars, and specifically improve a sense of belonging among our students. In the priority area of access and opportunities, our first objective is to increase pre-K enrollment for 3- and 4-year-olds. And you'll notice as we go through in the measures, we've set, most of them are 5-year goals that will then be, we will have what are called KPIs, key performance indicators, that will break down where we should be each year to meet the 5-year goal. And most of them are set as 5-year goals. So that is forthcoming as we continue through the work. The second objective is to ensure all graduating students complete rigorous and relevant coursework in CTE, AP, IB, and/or dual enrollment programs during their high school program of studies. The third objective is to ensure that all of our schools have comprehensive transition plan support for students and families as they transition in those key transition years of pre-K to K, 5th to 6th, and 8th to 9th grade. And then our fourth objective is around those portrait of a graduate competencies, and that is to ensure that they are integrated into our essential curriculum. Our third priority area, culture, safety, and wellness. Our first objective really centers around the development of a district-wide climate survey that we will need to engage in the coming months, to allow us to collect consistent perceptual data from our community members and our students and staff to measure their, the safe and supportive learning environment. The second objective is to create a positive learning environment among students, staff, and families. This really gets more at school culture and climate, and we will use the Maryland report card survey to measure that one. The third objective is around student attendance. We know that student attendance is important to learning, so increasing the students' attendance rate in each school. The fourth objective is to improve our retention of supporting staff, teachers, and leaders with our school district. And the fourth priority area of community engagement, our first objective is for each school or program to engage families. So starting with a baseline measurement of what's the level of engagement for each school and increasing that over time. The second is to strengthen district collaborative partnerships with local organizations and businesses. So clarifying which and where we have our existing partnerships and where there would be mutual beneficial opportunities to increase those. And the third objective is to increase transparency and communication with the community, and that will be measured through perceptual data and feedback over time. So for each of these objectives and measures, there are specific strategies that are outlined that we look forward to sharing with you as we provide updates on our progress with each of the goal areas. Then we'll be able to provide specifics in the how we'll go about increasing these. But these are the objectives that our design team elevated as the key leverage points to meet the goals of the 4 priority areas in our strategic plan. So at this point, I think at this point that concludes my presentation. I'll turn it back over to you, Dr. Sabine.
Thank you, Dr. Webster. As you see, your journey, our commitment, our focus, once the board takes action, will be in August with our annual leadership council meeting. This will be a point of focus, and then as this board has heard, our commitment will be to provide public updates at least twice a year.
Can I ask a question? Go back to student success under career and college readiness, and it says a 25% increase by the end of 2030, 5 years from now. I'm not sure I understand the baseline data that you're using and why it's only 25%.
So looking at the goals of looking at where we were, we consulted with our curriculum and instruction team on where we currently are in terms of students meeting those college and career readiness standards and what the requirements are for Blueprint and what would be a reasonable increase over those grade levels for the 5 years. So when we build out the KPIs and we look at the specific data by grade level, I think you'll see more detail that would allow you to understand why we chose the particular percentages that we chose.
Same thing for ELA, a 30% increase over 5 years.
Yep, looked at our current performance and where we are and what it would take to get to where we need to be.
I'm English, and I'm looking at math at 100%, and I'm going, why not? Why don't we have 100%?
Yeah, just in terms of looking at where we currently are with performance in math, we have more, and this is statewide, we're not special in this category, but we have a more aggressive goal in math because of our need to close a wider gap with math performance.
So I had a similar concern there, and I was looking especially at the student success. You know, ELA, that's I think that's a pretty low number. I think the CCR number's low, and I think the KRA, is that 20% by the end of the year, is that just 20% of the kids or 20% increase on the student success there?
20% by the end, so an increase of 20% from the baseline year.
Okay, because it just says 20% of them will be, I'm thinking all of our kids are, we have 20% already, right?
Yeah.
Okay, can we add that in there, the
To
increase?
clarify, yes, absolutely.
And then I also do think that some of those numbers are a little low. I think that's, I think we can challenge ourselves a little more and go and say maybe 40 or 50% at least on those three. I think it's better to have a lofty goal than a low goal. I think we can expect more from our kids and from our community. They're able to learn. So I think we're selling ourselves short on that.
Well, I think as we provide updates, I think the idea of, we know that this will be a fluid document, and as we review it, we will make adjustments. And as we look at these numbers, if we take a look at the first review, and it looks like the target is not aggressive enough, then we can certainly make revisions to those as we go.
And that's the beauty of reviewing this on an ongoing basis as we have our annual KPIs. If we see, as Dr. Webster has referenced, as we report out, if we've well exceeded that, then we'll recalibrate and make adjustments. But many of these goals, as we work with our pretty diverse design team, these are considered very bold and bold goals in terms of stretching where we are as an organization and better serving our community.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Will we see what because I mean, these numbers go for 2029 to 30 pretty much across the board. Some of them, well, yeah, pretty much across the board where our goals are to be achieved by the 29-30 year. So will we have like subsidiary goals so that each year, and we'll be able to see that and we'll be reported out on that?
Absolutely. So this is the initial pass of setting. It was a road to get to this point of what are the priorities, what are the key objectives, what are we really targeting in and zeroing in terms of data to focus on for improvement. Now, as we build out the KPIs for each of these, there will be yearly goals for each one broken out. And I think those would be the opportunities for us to see needs to adjust, get more aggressive, or maybe there's places where we see that growth is slower and it's harder to chip away at, and we question why and kind of dig into it. It might take us longer. But there is much more to happen. You will get additional, it'll probably end up being more of a book when we start to look at the data that we'll be monitoring for each one of these. This is just your initial pass of these are the goals that we are going to be digging into the data for.
Is there a motion, please?
Madam President, move for approval. Whoops, wrong one. Already turned it over, sorry. Move for approval of the district strategic plan.
Mr. Stauffer, is there a second? Second. Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Is there any further discussion or any further questions? Okay, we're voting to approve the district strategic plan. All those in favor? All right, we have a unanimous vote, and the student member concurs. Thank you, Dr. Webster.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Savine. Okay, our next agenda item is the design development documents for the Downsville Pike Elementary School. We have Mr. Criswell, our senior project manager and planning supervisor, Mr. Matthew Burton, our supervisor of construction, Michael Blake from Mosley Architects, and Jen Lyon from Mosley Architects. Good evening.
We're pleased to return this evening with Mr. Michael Blake and Ms. Jen Lyon from Mosley Architects to update you on the design of Downsville Pike Elementary. Before we get to the presentation, the facilities team wanted to thank the Mosley team for their continued hard work and dedication to this project. Mr. Blake?
Dr. Savine, President Williams, and members of the board, thanks for having us back again. What you'll see today is a lot similar to what we presented in the schematic design presentation, but there are some notable evolutions, and we'll be able to point those out. There are some additional things that we accomplished in the last couple of months, and we do want to highlight those as well. So to begin with, we always like to start with the site plan. This is very similar to the site plan you've seen before, so we've been able to hold true to some of the early decisions that we've made, still separating the bus loop with the parent drop-off loop, still have that strong connection with the CES building, and have our outdoor playfield areas in high visible locations to the front entrance and admin, and in secure locations. The evolution of this plan, you can see some line work on there that reflects some grading and some stormwater management, so we've introduced some engineering into the plan, and it all is coming together as we envisioned. So we're very happy with how the site plan has evolved. One other item that came up at the last meeting that was still kind of in the early workings was whether or not there would be a traffic light at the intersection of Sterling and Downsville Pike. We have recently received approval from the county on that, so there will be a stoplight there. We're just now beginning the engineering on that and how that connects with another light that is proposed along Downsville. So we'll have probably something more definitive in a couple of months on that. One aspect of this phase of the design is what we call quarter scale review. These are comprehensive reviews with the key departmental staff to get their feedback on all aspects of the building design. We call it quarter scale because we use drawings that are a little bit larger in scale, so you can see a lot of the design elements. On the slide there is a list of all the components in the building that we reviewed with key staff. It's very important for us to get that user feedback and be able to incorporate those comments into the design. So we've documented those with markups of the drawings and in meeting notes, so it's sort of solidified, all their comments are solidified and then able to be incorporated into the design. Another aspect that has evolved from the last time is the development of the classroom areas. And we have several distinct classroom types in this building, from the pre-K through kindergarten, the primary and intermediate classrooms. Up on the screen there are kind of the two representative examples of the kindergarten classroom on the left-hand side. All the kindergarten and the pre-K and the first and second grade actually will have cubbies in the rooms. The kindergarten, first and second grades also have an adjacent collaborative space that is kind of a pull-out space from the classroom area. There is some glass visibility into that room through a side light and an adjacent door. For the intermediate classrooms, third, fourth, and fifth grades, all of those will have lockers immediately outside in the corridors. So no lockers in the classroom spaces. There is also a collaborative space adjacent to those classrooms. For these collaborative spaces, there's a little more transparency, so we've got full wall glass so we can have vision between classrooms and the collaborative space. I'll just flip through these very quickly. The plans haven't really changed much from what you've seen in the past. We've just really layered in more information. We still have that strong entry sequence with the administration on the corner there in red. We have our parent and bus entry points connecting behind the administration, and then aligning all the public spaces along the left-hand side of what we call the main corridor, the spine, the gymnasium, the cafeteria, and stage. And then centrally located is the IRC, or the media center, there in green, and then the classroom wings in the light-colored yellow on either side. Second floor, very similar to what you've seen before, very efficient L-shaped plan, and that's where our intermediate classrooms will be located, third, fourth, and fifth. And then this is just an evolving roof plan. Very straightforward and simple design on the roof plan as well. In terms of space program, this slide is a comparison of the ed spec with the current DD program areas, and we've identified them in the main categories. For the most part, we're holding true to what we had in the previous presentation. The key aspect here is down at the bottom where we're identifying the net program and the gross program square footage. We're under 3% variance, which is really good for this size of a building. So that's kind of really our target goals, is our net and gross program areas. As you recall, we are planning in a phase 2 for this school. This is the last time you'll see a phase 2. It will fall off and not be part of the design moving forward. Similar as before, we've held to the strategy for the phase 2 and are hitting our targets for our overall net and gross square foot target numbers. In terms of building elevations, these have evolved as well. We're looking at simplifying some of the elements and identifying the main entrances and integrating some canopies. So you'll see some simplified material treatments. The roof forms are simplified as well. One of the feedback comments we received was access and maintenance, and ability to get easily and safely in and around those roof areas. So we've acknowledged that. And we're still using durable materials that have low maintenance and are easy to repair. We've started to do some initial renderings to visualize what the school would look like. We've got 4 here for you. The top 2 are the drop-off areas. Upper left is the bus drop-off loop with its dedicated entrance. Upper right is the parent drop-off loop. It's that longer drive that was on the site plan. And then lower areas are just some close-up images. Bottom left is an outdoor classroom area we have between the classroom wings, and then a close-up of the main entrance. In terms of construction estimate and schedule, our budget was at $42,800,000. We've had this recent iteration of drawings, updated pricing with our cost estimating consultant. We're looking at building and site work trade bids with overhead profit bonding and contingency and escalation captured in that estimate. We're tracking right about at the budget level, and that's good because we still have contingency and escalation in the estimate. There's still a little bit of ways to go in terms of finalizing the design, so we feel like we're hitting the targets where we need to. In terms of schedule, of course, we're just wrapping up our design development, which we will, contingent on approval tonight, continue on and submit to the state. And then we're going to move forward with the construction documents, anticipating delivering those shortly after Thanksgiving. And I think that's it. Thank you very much.
With your approval this evening of the design development documents for this project, we will then submit those to the Maryland State Department of Education and the Department of General Services for approval. This will allow the Mosley team to move to the next phase of this project, which is the construction document phase, as Mr. Blake said. And at this time, we'll answer any questions that you may have.
Motion, please.
Mrs. Williams, I move for the approval of the design development documents as prepared by the Mosley architects for the Downsville Pike Elementary School.
Thank you, Mr. Gesvert. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. And now, Dr. Zentmeyer, you have a question.
I do have a question. The project summary, what page is that on? This one? No, yes, where is that? What page?
It should be the second to the last page.
It's in this one.
Okay, all right. Another book. Thank you.
So, I know they're there, but I'm not sure where they are. Where are the public bathrooms on the first floor of that diagram? The classrooms all have separate bathrooms, right? So I know they're there, I just don't know where.
They're across from the green, across the corridor from the green
Okay, can you point up there?
IRC. Yeah.
You'll have it right there.
Okay,
Behind the gym.
okay. I
Outside-
thought maybe
outside of
that's
the
what
gym.
they were, but
And they are set up so that, say we have rec league occurring in the evening in the basketball at the gym, they can have the corridors locked off so no one can get into the school, so it doesn't interfere with custodial operations, and still leave access to anyone using the rec league, and vice versa. They can be locked either way. So.
And what is the life expectancy of this school? How far down the road before another board someday is going to say, we got to replace it?
Well, yeah, no guarantee on life expectancy, but the types of materials that we're using are durable materials. We're in a 50-year building.
And the last thing I'll say is, I'm glad to see that we're getting rid of 2 open schools for this one, for the safety of the kids in today's world.
Any other questions or comments?
I'd just like to, I know for architects, the fun part is putting some personality in the building. What did you add? It looked like you're trying to match some of the building we're in.
Yeah, I think we spoke earlier about some of the elements on this building, just to have some kind of communication. And I think the earlier presentation was a little bit more literal, but we've held to that, and it's really, so you can see on the entrance there, which is that upper elevation, it's sort of the main entrance, those vertical windows and sort of the rhythm. If you were to walk outside front here and kind of look back, you'll see some of those same elements. Certainly the brick is something that's going to tie the two together. But I think in general, it's the kind of the rhythm of the windows that really kind of helps, we think, tie the two buildings together. And it's going to start to feel, I mean, I know this is a different type of use and it's a little bit bigger building, but it's going to feel a little bit more like a campus, which is one of the goals we had.
In your one rendering, I almost thought that was this current building behind. I was like, oh no, that's part of the design. Okay, that's neat.
Any other questions? We'll move to the vote. We're voting to approve the design development documents as prepared by Mosley Architects for the Downsville Pike Elementary School. All those in favor? Okay, we have 7 affirmative, so that's a unanimous vote, and the student member concurs. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
All right. consideration is Clear Spring High School Wilson Roritan Club Scholarship Endowment Agreement and the Williamsport High School Wilson Roritan Club Scholarship Endowment Agreement with Dr. Wilcox. Good evening.
Good evening, President Williams, Dr. Sovine, and board members. The Wilson Roritan Club has established an endowment known as the Wilson Roritan Club Scholarship Fund. The purpose of the fund is to provide financial support for graduating students at Clear Spring High School and Williamsport High School who are continuing their education after graduation and have provided service to the Clear Spring and Williamsport communities. The endowment agreements establish the Board of Education's authority to manage the $60,000 contribution invested in the fund at Clear Spring High School and the $60,000 contribution invested in the fund at Williamsport High School. I am requesting approval of these agreements.
Thank you, Dr. Wilcox. If I could have a motion, please. There are two motions. If I could have them one at a time, that would be great.
I move to approve the Clear Spring High School Wilson Roritan Club Scholarship Endowment Agreement.
Thank you, Mrs. Perry. Your second. Second. Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. Any discussion?
I was just curious. They had to sell the building, but there still is a Roritan Club. They just don't have a building, and this money comes from the sale of the building. I'm just curious.
My understanding is the money comes from the sale of the building, but my understanding is also that the club no longer exists.
That what?
That the club no longer exists.
No longer exists. Okay. That was my understanding, too. That's very nice of them.
We'll move to the vote. We're voting to approve the Clear Spring High School Wilson Roritan Club Scholarship Endowment Agreement. All those in favor? Okay, we have 7 affirmative. Student member concurs. Next motion, please.
President Williams, I move to approve the Williamsport High School Wilson Roritan Club Scholarship Endowment Agreement.
Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. Any questions, comments? Okay, we'll move to the vote. We're voting to approve the Williamsport High School Wilson Roritan Club Scholarship Endowment Agreement. All those in favor? Okay, we have 7 affirmative, and unanimous vote. Thank you, Dr. Wilcox, and please thank the Roritans.
Will do.
What's left of them. It's sad to hear that they're
Yes.
having to disband, yes.
I would just like to add a little bit, being a part of the community for many, many years, attending a lot of the Wilson Roritan functions. I know that as these clubs become older in membership, it's harder for them to survive. And I think just giving them thanks for all the years that they did the fundraisers that they did for their community. I mean, they were big on butcherings and things like that. And it takes a lot for a small community organization like the Roritan. So I applaud all of those members, and there's probably not many of them left, but through the years, how they all survived and they came together to be a part of a community. And yet at the end, they are thinking of the community again. And it may be a very small group that wound up selling their building, and which is always the sad part, is because you know you're coming to an end. And then to give it back to an organization like the schools for scholarships that hopefully will last, forever, in the name of all that hard work that they did for many, many years. So I applaud both the Wilson Roritan Club and the Williamsport Roritan Club. So to think of their communities even after they're gone, and all those members that have, aren't there anymore, but they did all the hard work to give back. So I applaud them for that.
Thank you, Dr. Wilcox. Next up is a donation of $6,000 to North Hagerstown High School from the North Hagerstown High School Boosters Club, Inc. Is there a motion, please?
Madam President, move to approve a donation of $6,000 to North Hagerstown High School from the North Hagerstown High School Boosters Club Incorporated.
Mr. Stauffer, is there a second? Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. Any questions, discussion? Okay, we're moving to the vote. We're voting to approve a donation of $6,000 to North Hagerstown High School from the North Hagerstown High School Boosters Club, Inc. All those in favor? All right, we have 7 affirmative, a unanimous vote. Student member concurs. Thank you. Okay. Next up, we have amendments to the personnel policies and procedures for administrators and supervisors by the Washington County Board of Education, dated July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2025, and wages effective July 1st, 2024. Good evening, Mrs.
Good evening.
Baker.
I have Dr. Rachel King-Kirkpatrick here with me representing our ANS, and we're asking for, the staff is requesting board approval for amendments to the personnel policies and procedures for administrators and supervisors.
Thank you, Mrs. Baker. Is there a motion, please?
President Williams? I move to approve the amendments to the personnel policies and procedures for administrators and supervisors by the Washington County Board of Education dated July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2025, and the wages effective July 1st, 2024.
Thank you, Mrs. Miller. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Any questions, any discussion? And we'll move to the vote. We're voting on Mrs. Murray's motion. Mr. Stauffer's second. All those in favor? Okay, we have 7 affirmative, a unanimous vote. Next up, we have approval of a negotiated agreement between the Washington County Board of Education and the Washington County Educational Support Personnel for the negotiated agreement dated July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2027, and the wages effective July 1st, 2024.
I have with me Ms. Anne-Marie Hines. She is the representative of WCESP, our educational support personnel. And tonight we're asking for your approval with the approved negotiated agreement between the Board of Ed and WCESP.
Thank you, Mrs. Baker. Is there a motion, please?
President Williams, I move to approve the negotiated agreement between the Washington County Board of Education and the Washington County Educational Support Personnel for the negotiated agreement dated July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2027, and the wages effective July 1st, 2024.
Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. Any questions or comments? We'll move to the vote. We're voting to approve the negotiated agreement between the Washington County Board of Education and the Washington County Educational Support Personnel. All those in favor? All right, we have a unanimous vote, 7 affirmative. Motion carries. Thank you. Mrs. Hines, did you want to say something?
Oh, I just wanted to thank Dr. Savine and his negotiations team for a very collaborative and smooth process, and we appreciate the Board of Education support of all of our ESPs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have a memorandum of understanding between the Washington County Board of Education and the Washington County Teachers Association regarding salary, blueprint for Maryland's future, the career ladder, and amended language detailed in the signed tentative agreements. Is there a motion, please?
Madam President, move to approve the memorandum of understanding between the Washington County Board of Education and the Washington County Teachers Association Incorporated regarding salary, blueprint for Maryland's future career ladder, and amended language detailed in the signed tentative agreements.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Any discussion, any questions? And we'll move to the vote. We're voting to approve the MOE between the Washington County Board of Education and Washington County Teachers Association regarding salary, blueprint for Maryland's future career ladder, and amended language detailed in the signed tentative agreements. All those in favor? Okay, we have a unanimous affirmative vote. Thank you. Hi.
We have with us this evening Ms. Mary Herringa. She represents WCTA, MSCA, and we're happy she's here and happy this process went so well.
Thank you, Mrs. Haringa. Next up is a memo of understanding between the Washington County Board of Education and the Washington County Teachers Association regarding a modification of Teacher Article 7.14, planning time.
Motion?
Is there a motion?
Madam President, move to approve the memorandum of understanding between the Washington County Board of Education and the Washington County Teachers Association, Inc., regarding a modification of Teacher Article 7.14, planning time.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. Any questions, any discussion? We'll move to the vote. We're voting to approve the MOE between the Board of Education and Teachers Association as read. All those in favor? Okay, we have a unanimous affirmative vote. Motion carries. Next up is a memo of understanding between the Washington County the Washington County Board of Education and the Washington County Teachers Association regarding a modification of Teacher Article 15.2, National Certification. Is there a motion, please?
Madam President, move to approve the memorandum of understanding between the Washington County Board of Education and the Washington County Teachers Association, Inc., regarding a modification of Teacher Article 15.2, National Certification.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Is there a second, please? Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Any questions or discussion? We'll move to the vote. We're voting to approve the MOE between the Washington County Board of Education and the Teachers Association regarding a modification of Teacher Article 15.2 National Certification. All those in favor? Okay, we have a unanimous affirmative vote. Next is a memorandum of understanding between the Washington County Board of Education and the Washington County Teachers Association regarding a modification of Teacher Article 15.9, extra duty pay. Is there a motion, please?
Madam President, move to approve the memorandum of understanding between the Washington County Board of Education and the Washington County Teachers Association, Inc., regarding a modification of Teacher Article 15.9, extra duty pay.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Any questions, any discussion? Okay, we'll move to the vote. We're voting to approve the MOE between the Board of Ed and the Washington County Teachers Association regarding a modification of Teacher Article 15.9, extra duty pay. All those in favor? All right, we have a unanimous affirmative vote. The motion carries. Next is approval of a memorandum of understanding between the Washington County Board of Education and the Washington County Teachers Association regarding a modification of Teacher Article 16.2, extracurricular assignments. Is there a motion, please?
President, I move to approve the memorandum of understanding between the Washington County Board of Education and the Washington County Teachers Association, Incorporated,
Thank you.
regarding a modification of Teacher Articles 13.7, specialized teaching assignment, and 15.7, salary enhancement.
That's the next one. I'm sorry.
That's the only one I have. Sorry.
Okay. You have one that says 16.2.
I thought we read that one. I have it. I was in a hurry. I apologize to everyone for
There's a lot of them.
Just got a little carried away.
Can we vote on that one, Mrs. Williams?
Pardon?
Can we go ahead and vote on that one since?
Let's just go
Yeah,
ahead.
I'm sorry. I
That's all right.
apologize, guys. Madam President, I move to approve the memorandum of understanding between the Washington County Board of Education and the Washington County Teachers Association, Incorporated, regarding a modification of Teacher Article 16.2, extracurricular assignments.
Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Your second. Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Any questions, discussion? We move to the vote. We're voting to approve the memo of understanding between the Washington County Board of Education and the Teachers Association regarding a modification of Teacher Article 16.2, extracurricular assignments. All those in favor? Okay, we have a unanimous affirmative vote. Motion carries. And we have one final memorandum of understanding between the Washington County Board of Education.
The one,
I'm sorry.
we have to go back to the ones you did.
That's the next one.
That's
Oh,
the
okay.
next one.
Got it, sorry.
We're moving ahead. We're not going back.
Okay,
Don't
good.
confuse me.
Sorry.
Okay, we're on number 22. And this is the memo of understanding between the Washington County Board of Education and the Washington County Teachers Association regarding a modification of Teacher Article 13.7, Specialized Teaching Assignments, and 15.7, Salary Enhancements.
I move to approve the memorandum of understanding between the Washington County Board of Education and the Washington County Teachers Association Incorporated regarding a modification of Teacher Articles 13.7, Specialized Teaching Assignment, and 15.7, Salary Enhancement.
Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Any questions, any discussion? We'll move to the vote. We're voting on Mrs. Murray's motion and Mr. Bickford's second to approve the memo of understanding before you. All those in favor? Okay, we have a unanimous vote. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to take a moment to thank the board and the district team for their collaboration throughout the negotiation process. As you can see, we had a lot that we got through this year, and it was a very collaborative process, and just appreciate their willingness to think outside the box and get creative about some solutions for our teachers and our students. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary.
It's always good to see the negotiation process come to an end, and appreciate hearing about the good collaboration. Thank you so much. Okay, and now we'll have the second half of the superintendent's report. Dr. Savine.
Thank you, President Williams. Members of the board, this evening I'd like to highlight the incredible accomplishments of some of our students from the Boyd J. Michael III Technical High School. We're so proud of them, as many of these students are ranking among the most talented students in the nation. The EMS group achieved a third-place finish, earning themselves a medal, and they competed in a scenario-based event that included either a medical or trauma situations. Their reactions and decisions demonstrated their knowledge and skills of the EMS field. Another student group finished in fourth place for their community service project. We also had students finishing in eighth place in the categories of barbering as well as drone operations. And rounding out the national finishes, a group of Tech High students finished in 18th place in the Skills USA Quiz Bowl, where they were tested on their ability to quickly respond to knowledge questions covering academics, current events, and Skills USA professional development curriculum. I'd like to extend my congratulations to all of our students on their outstanding performances at the Skills USA National Competition. President Williams, that concludes my update.
Thank you, Dr. Savine. Okay, at this time we'll have personnel action. Dr. Webster, you could come forward, please.
Good evening again, President Williams, members of the board, and Dr. Savine. As discussed earlier during closed session, there are several staff changes for your review. At this time, I ask for your approval of this evening's personnel actions.
Thank you, Dr. Webster. Is there a motion, please?
President Williams, I move to approve the personnel actions dated Tuesday, July 16, 2024, as presented in closed session.
Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Stafford. Okay. We're voting to approve personnel actions as discussed today in closed session. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Opposed? 1 opposed.
Abstain.
1 abstention.
Mrs. Williams, I just want to clarify that for transparency. One of the people in personnel I've known for 15 years and is considered a good friend, so I just want to make sure that everyone knows that I'm just doing that for transparency. I have nothing against anybody.
Thank you, Mr. Gesser. I appreciate that.
Yep.
So the motion carries, and we have approved personnel actions. Thank you.
Thank you.
That brings us to reports to the board and committee reports. So first one on the list is curriculum and instruction. Dr. Zentmeyer, would you like to go?
I do. Tuesday, August 13th is our next meeting. I hate to go ahead and give a sneak preview, but all of my favorite people are going to be there. And we're going to be talking about everything from arts and blueprint to summer professional learning and pre-K updates.
Great, thank you. Facilities, Mr. Jeffrey.
Nothing at this time.
Thank you. Finance?
Finance is also meeting on the 13th of August at 1 p.m.
Great minds. Human resources?
Human Resources will not be meeting again until September.
Policy Review and Development Committee?
Policy Committee will meet on August the 8th at 9 o'clock.
Thank you very much. Okay, that brings us to miscellaneous business and the consideration of future agenda items. You have a long list, 9 items. Coming up on the 6th of August, we have our work session. We'll be talking about APIB dual enrollment. We'll have an update and also a computer science update. And on the 20th, at our business meeting, we will have the second reading of all of the policies that we did the first reading for this evening, along with the next year's budget calendar. It's hard to believe we've just finished doing one budget and we're ready to start thinking about another. So those are the items on our list. If you have any suggestions for future agendas, please let a member of the Agenda Planning Committee know. That brings us to board member comments. We'll do something different. Is there anyone who would like to volunteer to be first this evening?
I'll go first.
Thank you.
Welcome, Daphne. We're so glad you're here with us. It is a thrill to have you on our team. Thank you so much for stepping up to the plate. Also, today in 1790, the Resident Act was signed into law, making Washington, D.C. the capital of the United States, much to our chagrin, because as you notice in Williamsport, we have very wide streets because we were hopeful that the capital would be here. But oh, how our lives would have been changed. The only other thing I need to say is stay hydrated.
Thank you. Someone else like to volunteer to go?
Well, I'd just like to say, somebody earlier this evening referred to me as an old guy, and it was strange because today on Facebook I got a friend request from Benjamin Franklin. I don't know a Benjamin Franklin, so I deleted it, so.
Anyone else?
From the grave.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Ms. Lang.
Just wanted to say that as you all have noticed, I'm not Graham Snyder, and I wanted to take a moment to introduce myself. My name's Daphne Wang.
Can you speak up a little bit?
Yes, of course. I wanted to take a moment to introduce myself. My name is Daphne Wang. I am a senior at North Hickerson High School in the IB program, and I will be the new student member of the board for the 2024-2025 school year. I just wanted to extend my thanks to the board for making me feel so welcome today at my first meeting. I can't wait to work with all of you and learn from you and learn with you. I also wanted to thank my fellow peers who have entrusted me with the responsibility of this position. Student member of the board is such a venerated position, and it's such a huge responsibility to be able to represent the student voice across Washington County, and I'm so honored to have the privilege to do that. I also wanted to extend my gratitude to the previous student members of the board who have made this transition of responsibility as seamless as it could be, especially Graham Snyder. He has been so helpful, giving me level-headed advice and really answering all my questions with so much patience. He is such a special person, and I wish him all the best at UMD next year. And yeah, I just wanted to thank the board one more time. I can't wait to work with all of you, and thank you to the community members who have sat here throughout this meeting today. And I have a lot of ideas, so I'm ready to get some work done. Thank you all for your time.
I think we should give her a round of applause for Dr.
Anyone else? Okay, I just have a few things. Some commenters this evening during public comment, and commenters on social media, email writers, and anonymous phone callers think that I, as an individual Board of Education member, or the board vice president and I, are responsible for the alleged actions surrounding the speaker's child that led up to his public comments on June 16th. I am not, the Vice President is not. Neither I, the Vice President, or any other individual board member, nor the board as a whole, directly monitors or conducts daily operations in the schools. No Board of Education member had any involvement in the alleged actions. In fact, the situation in question was not brought to the attention of an elected board member until June 1st, which was after the situation had already been resolved. At that time, it then became the responsibility of that board member to see that the speaker's allegations were investigated and any necessary changes made, and, if appropriate, any individuals to be held accountable. That work is underway, and if that work is not done, then the entire board should be held accountable. Since the investigation of these allegations involve both student and personnel privacy rights, it will be conducted in a manner that respects the privacy rights. Thank you. Colleagues, any other comments? Dr. Savine, final words? Okay, thank you. We are adjourned.